Welcome to the BetterPears Podcast. Join Dr. Jason Fugikawa for his insights on theology, philosophy, culture, and the verbal expressions we use to relate meaning and reality to one another. Make no mistake, this is a podcast for nerds, but particular nerds who are searching for old wisdom made ever new. To learn more about the BetterPears cultural empire, please visit BetterPears.com. Hello, I am Dr. Jason Fugikawa. This week's episode on real estate is prefaced by a dedication to my first Latin teacher. I continue to offer my gratitude to you, our audience, for continuing to listen each week. If you enjoy the BetterPears podcast, could you please like and subscribe to the podcast on your platform of choice? This simple task truly helps us reach a wider audience. To receive the transcript of each episode and be the first to learn of BetterPears announcements, please sign up to our newsletter at the bottom of the page at betterpears.com. New, upcoming BetterPears Greenhouse Fellowships, participatory dramatic readings of Shakespeare's greatest plays, have been added to the website, including a Friday-Saturday fellowship on Romeo and Juliet for spring break. Each fellowship consists of 2 reading sessions in a domestic setting, featuring an experienced guide, delicious food, and a Shakespearean masterpiece, all for a fixed price. In addition, some of our weekend fellowships are now designated for coffee, tea, and fresh pear service in lieu of our regular refreshments at a reduced cost to the fellows. This will better accommodate fellows seeking to dine for the evening, think date night, prior to the fellowship session. To learn more, watch our introductory video, and register, please visit betterpears.com/greenhouse. If you enjoy the BetterPears podcast somewhere downrange from OKC and would like to host a BetterPears fellowship in your hometown, please let us know by leaving a comment or emailing me through the contact page of the website. Finally, the BetterPears podcast is offered free through the wonder of the internet, but made possible through the continued contributions of our listener audience. Please consider a monthly contribution of as little as $10 per month or a one-time contribution of whatever you can responsibly afford. Thank you for your continued patronage of attention and Federal Reserve notes. And now, on with the episode. Dedication. Sister Georgia Marie Meschenschlager, CDP, is distinguished in my life for 3 reasons. Introducing me to my first love, the Latin language, living up to every syllable of her last name as a nun teaching at my Jesuit all-male college preparatory alma mater for decades, and lastly, for telling me a great truth about myself which, though obvious to her, altered the course of my career, life, and your selection of podcasts. Sister Georgia's Latin 1 was my first official high school class when everyone from the future valedictorian to future dropouts all shared the same grade, 0. The veritable boot camp that ensued for the first period each day over the course of my freshman year did much for my human and intellectual formation for my next decade. That freshman Latin class, which contained all the vocabulary from this week's episode, was indeed my only class with Sister Georgia in all 4 years of high school. Her last words to me were during a free period in my senior year. I was reading in the cafeteria, and she was cutting through in her journey across the campus. As if by divine appointment, she stopped near me and offered an observation. She observed that I loved learning. This was no shock to me, as my high school was split along the classic jock-nerd divide. She continued by saying that there were many in the school who studied and learned for some profit or purpose, money, fame, fear of failure. She was observing that I learned because learning was what I did, what I was called by God to do, that a school would always be my home. BetterPears was born from a desire to offer hospitality to pilgrim souls who, in the task of answering higher callings, have had to forsake the comfort of their first or second homes till their final home be attained. Season 2, Episode 6, Real Estate. What do we mean by the term real estate? Is land as property significantly more real than an automobile, livestock, or even precious metals? Of all places, this question was posed to me as a reader of Robert Kiyosaki's landmark book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, some 20 years ago. Kiyosaki's point in the book is to note that the real in real estate stands for real or royal, as in the football club Real Madrid, which is not somehow more authentically Madrid or more intensely a football club than its rivals. Kiyosaki continues by elaborating on how land as real estate remains subject to eminent domain and property tax, the latter justified as an exchange for our productive use of the king's land. Royal estate does not, however, resonate with Americans. While we seem to have a tolerance for tyrants, we, like the ancient Romans, absolutely reject a king or rex. I'm going to use the pronunciation rex, even though in my mind I'm thinking rakes. Just play along. Even the transition from the Roman Republic to empire witnessed Julius Caesar rejecting this royal title for that of dictator. His posthumously adopted son, Octavius, chose the titles princeps, or first head, and imperator, or commander, and eventually even deification over the repudiated title rex. Pontius Pilate also knew that the title Rex, written over a certain crucified upstart from Nazareth, would give him political cover in Rome, despite the veracity of the title in that case. Rex itself is a peculiar word. It remains popular in our oral palate on account of a certain dinosaur named like a Sophoclean protagonist, both tyrant and king. Not until Rex is viewed with its Latin genitive form regus does its identity come into focus as a compound between res, meaning thing, matter, or affair, and the verb ago, agere, egi actum, meaning to do, drive. A king, then, is quite literally the doer of the public thing, or res publica. This follows as a civilization's first king is often the one who founds a city-state through cross-tribal allegiances or sheer domination. A king, more than simply being a strong man, is one who gets things accomplished, pouring himself out, or at least some of his blood and sweat, into the very foundation of the founded city. The word estate, in contrast, is less doubtful in its connection to sto stare, the verb to stand, or as in this case, to stand up or establish. And yet there is something reclusive from the polis in an estate. There is an affinity, more of the heart than the intellect, between an estate and aestatis, the Latin word for summer, an affinity that Big Lexi, the lexicography cartel, cannot break. Since ancient times, the landed wealthy of Rome would depart for summer estates or villas to escape the heat and accumulated humanity along the banks of the Tiber. Although most Americans never own second vacation homes, the idea of real estate ownership over property rentals has remained a fixture of what has been called the American dream, as if our teleological nature could be reduced to our unconscious imagination. The desire to own land with a domicile on it is not simply a vestigial homage to monarchical roots, but rather a manifestation of the res, preceding the res publica, in both time and moral primacy. The res familiaris stems from the family as the fundamental unit of society. It is not the public thing, the public good, that makes real estate so desirable, but rather the familial good. The owning of real estate does not make a husband or father into a king per se, but it does provide the circumstance for his governance to occur, to tend the garden, to be fruitful and multiply. The views expressed by BetterPears contributors are theirs alone, and do not necessarily reflect the views of BetterPears, its parent company, or any company or organization affiliated with the contributors. For more information, to support BetterPears, or to shop for BetterPears merchandise, please visit BetterPears.com.